Hello dear students, hope you all are already familiar with our online teaching lessons. So today I am going to teach you a lesson which is under Form 5 Human Biology. Our lesson is Reproduction. So you can refer this lesson from page number 193 to 209. Okay, let's move forward to find out the learning objectives of this lesson. Learning objectives. Here I am going to describe the structure of the gametes, which are egg and sperm, and relate their structure to their function. Also, you will know the process of the fertilization involves the fusions of the male and female gametes to the produce a zygote. And you will understand the random fertilization processes, genetic variations in the offsprings, and I am going to describe how a zygote divides to form an embryo, as well as you will know the structure of the functions of the male and female reproductive system. Also, I am going to explain the roles of the placenta, umbilical cord, amniotic fluid, and the hormone progesterone during the pregnancy, as well as I am here to explain the birth process and the advantages of the breastfeeding. As well as at the end of this video, you will know the roles of estrogen and testosterone in the development of the secondary sexual characteristics, and also you will understand the roles of FSH, LH, estrogen and progesterone in the menstrual cycle. So these are the learning objectives of this lesson. Reproduction. What is the meaning of reproduction? Yes, it is the process in which new organisms are created by combining the genetic informations from two individuals of different sexes. As this diagram shown you, humans reproduce sexually by a specialized cell called gametes. So in fertilization, these haploid sperm cells, which already contains 23 chromosomes, actually each and every gametes, whether it's an egg or sperm, it contains 23 chromosomes each. This sperm cell swims towards the ovum and combine all the females and male genetic materials together to form a single cell called zygote. You can see this zygote cell in orange color. This cell, which is zygote cell, is divided into many times by the mitosis to form a offspring or form a embryo. We can summarize the sexual reproductions of humans into 4 stages as ease of learning. First, gamete production, which are both eggs and sperm production. After that, the male gametes is transferred to the female gametes. Then fertilization occurs, the sperm fused with the eggs. As finally, the formations of zygote take place, which develops that zygote into a new individual. So, this is the summary of the reproduction. So, these gametes, which are eggs and sperm, where they produce? Sperms mainly produce in the male sex organs, the testes, while eggs are produced in the female sex organ, the ovaries. Gametes and the fertilization. The two gametes that I am going to teach you in this slide are eggs and the sperms. So, sperm. Sperm is a specialized cell which have a tail-like flagellum that allows them to swim, and the mitochondria in the middle space to supply ATP for energy. The head of the sperm contains a nucleus with the father's chromosome. As you all can see, this is a diagram of a typical sperm cell, and this part contains sac of enzymes which can penetrate the membrane around the ovum, and this is the nucleus of this cell. It bears the father's chromosome, and this is the middle part that contains several mitochondria which needed to provide energy for this cell, and this is the flagellum. We call that as a tail of this cell. The egg. The egg is about 0.1 millimeters in diameter with a large amount of cytoplasm and a nucleus containing the mother's chromosome. This cytoplasm contains energy and the nutrient that need for development of the embryo. Main stages of fertilization. Once a sperm reaches an egg, its nucleus enters the eggs and fuses with egg's nucleus called fertilization. So I will explain this process in detailed manner. When thousands of sperm cells move towards to ovum and bind with its outer membrane, that means bind with its cell membrane, and one of the most selected suitable sperm penetrate this cell membrane and releasing father's genetic material to the nucleus of the ovum. Once this both nucleus, that means once this both fathers and mothers genetic material fuse each other, formations of zygote take place. So this is the summary of the human fertilization. Normally in human, sperm and eggs each have only 23 chromosomes. One fertilization take place, it come up with the 46 chromosomes. Okay, so in here when it forms zygote contain altogether 46 chromosomes, but when we consider sperm and eggs separately, each contain 23 chromosomes each. Development of zygote after fertilization. Simply, zygote means a diploid cell resulting from the fusions of two haploid gametes, that means a fertilized ovum. This fertilization also important in making genetic variation. The sperms and eggs are all genetically different as they are formed by the meiosis. Each time this fertilization take place, it brings together different combinations of genes. That how it perform more and more genetic variations in the fertilization and the reproduction. Starting from this slide, I am going to explain the human reproductive system. So as first we'll look at the human female reproductive system. So here I have given side view and front view of the female reproductive system. So you can refer this image in page number 198 in your textbook. Okay, so in human we can identify several parts here. Here you can see this is the ovaries. In female they bears two ovaries, and this tube we call it as a oviduct or sometimes fallopian tube, and this area we call it as a uterus, and this is the cervix, and this area is called as a vagina. So in humans the female reproductive system is immature at the birth and it develops into maturity while we become puberty. When we become puberty, this female reproductive system is going to be able to produce gametes and to carry a fetus to a full term. Okay, so the uterus, this part is accommodates the embryo, and sometimes it's important to secrete some vaginal secretions. These vaginal secretions are very important to sperm and to swim. And basically ovaries are produce egg cells, and fertilization usually occurs near these fallopian tubes. Okay, so this is the basic idea of the female reproductive system. Purpose of the organs of the male reproductive system is to perform functions such as producing, maintaining and the transporting sperms and the semen, and also to produce produce and secrete male sex hormones such as testosterone. So here if we turn into the organs of male reproductive system, this part we called as a penis, and this is the urethra, and this is the erectile tissues, and this is the bladder, and this is the sperm duct, and this is the testes. So penis is important in sexual intercourse, while testes are responsible in making testosterone for the generating sperms. So these are the ones who produce these sperm cells, and urethra is the tube that carries this one. This is going to carry the urine from bladder to outside of the body, while ejaculation of semen when the man reaches orgasm. So during sexual intercourse, the man's penis become erect and move to woman's vagina to pass sperm with the fluid. So the fluid together with the sperm is called as semen, and this release of the semen is called as ejaculation. So this is about the male reproductive system. Each month an egg is released into oviduct from one of the ovaries, which known as ovulation. So if a egg which released during a ovulation meets a sperm cell in the oviduct specially, it may fertilize and start to develop by the attaching to muscular walls of the uterus. So the embryo that forms after the fertilization is develop an organ, extra organ called a placenta. Okay, here if I show you the placenta, this is the placenta. Sorry, this one is the placenta, and that placenta is allowed substance exchanging with the mother's blood. Also, it is important to maintain the embryo's position in the uterus, and after embryo develop considerably, it is known as a fetus. I mean, when it develop further, we are not going to name it as a embryo. Again, we giving the name as fetus. The structure of the placenta. Here, as this picture shown you, the light pink color areas represent the maternal blood, while white areas for fetus blood. So as you all can see, this contains several organs. Here, this area is called as a chorionic villi, and this is the pool of mother's blood, and these are the maternal blood vessels, and the most important thing is the umbilical cord. So the structure called umbilical cord is the basic connection between the mother's and fetus blood. It mainly come up with the both umbilical artery and umbilical vein. So here, as you can see, and whether mother and fetus have close blood circulation, that two systems do not mix each other. The substance exchanging between maternal and fetus blood always taking place via the diffusion. That means it doesn't mix its blood never, and just carrying out the diffusion process. So here the fetus cannot provide glucose, amino acid, oxygen and any other nutrition for itself. So what happen is, when he cannot provide the nutrition for himself, the mother's blood, mothers is willing to give more and more nutrition and the things which fetus needs. So how it happens, when mother's blood contains high concentrations of oxygen and nutrition, that means when mothers contain high concentrations of oxygen and the nutrition, they diffuse into umbilical vein. Umbilical vein and umbilical vein according to the concentration gradients, and eventually fetus can have it. Likewise, when fetus need to remove its waste products and the carbohydrate, as it haven't any well developed excretory system, he just releasing those waste product into umbilical artery, and it carries this deoxygenate blood containing waste product from the fetus to placenta. Likewise, this exchanging taking place. So whether it's waste products or nutrition, all the things are going to absorb into the placenta and out to the placenta through the diffusion process. So the diffusion is taking place into the both directions. Here, this is the place where diffusion take place. It can happen into this direction and the back direction also. Sometimes absorbing nutrition, removing waste products. So this is the basic structure of the placenta. Not only the nutrition, sometimes oxygen, nutrition and the oxygen, sometimes placenta exchanges many other substances such as antibodies from the mother's blood, which help to protect the baby from infectious diseases, as well as it also secrete, this placenta is going to secrete progesterone. We call it as a female hormone progesterone, which help to maintain the pregnancy until the baby developed. So this is the basic structure of the placenta. During pregnancy, a membrane called the amnion encloses the developing embryo. This amnion also secretes a fluid called amniotic fluid. which protects the developing embryo against sudden movement and the bumps. When fetus ready to deliver at the end of the 9th month of the development, it sends signal to mother to begin the birth process. So this birth process, birth of the child, can be divided into 3 categories. So first one is the dilations of the cervix. Second one is the delivery of the baby. As the third, it's the delivery of the afterbirth. So here I am going to explain these 3 processes using this diagram. So as this first one shown you, the first part, this is the dilations of the cervix. With the actions of the muscles of the uterus, amnion tears and baby is being ready to coming out through the cervix. The releasing of the amniotic fluid is generally known as, in some countries, as water breaking. So here, as second one, what happened is there, first strong contractions of the muscles of the uterus push baby through the cervix and then through the vagina to outside world. You can see it, the baby is slowly, gradually coming out through the cervix and vagina. So as a third part, after the baby has been born, this uterus continues to contract and pushes the placenta out together with the membranes that surrounded the baby. That's how it just removed all the things and again being normal. So this is the process, birth process. Actually this is the basics of the birth process. Breastfeeding. Breastfeeding is one of the most effective ways to ensure child health and survival because it is ideal for infant and it is safe and clean. So within hours of its birth, a baby will be fed by its mother on from her mammary gland. So during pregnancy, the mother's breast increase in size as the mammary gland grow new tissues. So they start to produce milk under the influence of a hormone called prolactin from mother's pituitary gland. Also another hormone which called as oxytocin is going to stimulate the release of milk from mammary gland. Here when the milk production is going to, the productions of milk is going to carry out by the hormone called prolactin, while releasing the milk from mammary gland is going to carried out by the hormone oxytocin. Is that clear? There are 2 functions. Okay. So if we talk about the breastfeeding further, mothers who doing this breastfeeding needs to maintain a healthy diet, and they very importantly they need to have good diet, and they need to increase the energy intake by about 25%. So they can take another extra protein, sometimes calcium, etc. So this breastfeeding is ideal for baby's health, or not only because they can have more nutrition, sometimes they can also have antibodies from mother's milk. That means this milk, breastfeed milks, so that antibodies is going to protect the baby from infectious diseases. It's very important. The most important thing in this breastfeeding is this breastfeeding is basically form an emotional bond between mother and her baby. It's very complicated and very beautiful thing. So this is a very important procedure, and actually it's a miracle. Hormone control in reproduction. When we talk about the hormones control in reproduction, we mainly focus on several sex hormones. So here the presence of male or female sex organs is known as the primary sex characteristic. What are these? That means depending on the female and male reproductive organs and the reproductive system, we can tell whether that one is a male or female one. So those things are we call that as a primary sex characteristic. The changes which take place after the puberty are named as a secondary sexual characteristic. That means when puberty involves 2 developments, after the puberty there are 2 developments taking place. One is the puberty ready our body to get maturing gametes to release. Okay, as well as it develops several adaptation in our body to allow support to reproduction processes. There are two. First one, it get maturing gametes to release, and second one is developing several adaptation in our body to allow support to reproduction process. So these events are started by hormones releasing by the pituitary gland called follicle stimulating hormone, or we can call it as a FSH hormone. And next one is the luteinizing hormone, or generally we know it as a LH. In boys, this FSH hormone is mainly stimulate the sperm production, while LH hormone instruct the testes to secrete the male sex hormone, which called as testosterone. This testosterone or male sex organ is control the development of the male secondary sexual characteristic. In the next slide, we are going to find out what are the secondary sexual characteristics of the males and females separately. Until that, just keep remember these things. So these are the changes in the changes which happen in the boy's body with actions of these FSH, LH and testosterone hormones. When it's girl's body, the main female sex hormone is the estrogen. This estrogen produces the female secondary sexual characteristics. Here I have given some changes which happen during the puberty and after the puberty periods in the boys and girls as well. So here, if we talk about the boys side first, with the puberty, their sperm production starting, and girls, their menstrual cycle begins and eggs are released by the ovaries every month. Okay, and second one, in the boys, growth of development of male sexual organs taking place. As well as the boys, same thing happen in the girls. That means growth of development of female sex organs taking place. As third one, growth of armpit and pubic hair and chest and facial hair. That means all the things are going to grow in fast, including beard. And in the girls, growth of armpit and pubic hair taking place. When it's fourth one, it's increasing the body mass. Growth of muscles, example we can take chest, and basically it increase the body mass in the boys body. As well as the boys, same thing happen in the girls, they increase the body mass and development of rounded shape body, rounded shape hips. Girls, they developing rounded shape hips. And also in boys, voice breaks and giving a rough voice, coming out a rough voice. And in girls, voice deepens without sudden breaking. When it's boys, their sexual drive develops, as well as the boys. In girls also, their sexual drive develops. And in girls, very importantly here, another characteristic is there. That means breast develop, because they are ready for maternity. That's why it's happened. So these are the changes which can take place during a puberty period and after the puberty as well. Hormones and the menstrual cycle. Menstrual means monthly, and generally women's menstrual cycle takes about a month. So it is a theoretical monthly cycle of changes in the ovaries and the lining of the uterus, starting with the preparations of an egg for the fertilization. Normally, if there is a fertilization, after that the formations of zygote is taking place. That zygote is accommodated in the lining of the uterus. But there are no fertilization taking place. The uterus has nothing to do. Then what happened? The lining of the uterus is lost from, that means it's breaking. The lining of the uterus is lost from the woman's body as the flow of menstrual blood and the cells of the lining. So this total process is called as the period. Is it clear? So in this cycle, first day of the menstruation is usually called as a day 1. Likewise, this cycle is consist with 28 days. Here, this period, in here lining of the uterus is sheaths. That means here the periods is coming out, and this likewise this area ovulation taking place, that means egg releases. Okay, so this is the menstrual cycle. Changes taking place during the menstrual cycle. So you can refer this part from page number 202 to 203. Okay, so here in this diagram you have to pay attention on several actions which carrying out in the lining of the uterus, ovaries, as well as what happened to the concentrations of hormones which secrete from the ovaries, and what happened to the concentrations of the pituitary hormones. Okay, that means time to time I'm explaining what happened to the uterus wall, and what happened to the follicles, and the nature of follicle, what happened to it, and whether it's increasing the level of the estrogen and progesterone during this cycle, and what happened to the FSH and LH levels. Okay, so let's start. Here inside a woman ovary, thousands of cells developing into a mature cell. Okay, that means each and every woman's ovary, thousands of cells are developing into mature cells. These mature cells are further grow inside a sac called as a follicle. The FSH is important, the hormone FSH is important to grow this follicle. That is why you can see a increasing of FSH hormone level or FSH hormone concentration during the growth of this follicle. Okay, so at the middle of the menstrual cycle, here this is the middle, at the middle of the menstrual cycle, this that mean at the 14th, the day 14th, follicle burst open and egg is releasing to the oviducts, is called as a ovulation. This follicle is opening and egg is releasing into the oviduct. So this happened in the 14th day of the menstrual cycle. When this thing taking place, when this thing happen, suddenly FSH level is decreasing and LH level is rising up. Okay, when this follicle growing, the FSH level was maintained in a higher level, but when this follicle burst open and when it when this egg release, this FSH level is decreasing while rising up the LH level. And also while these things going on, what happened to the lining of the uterus? Okay, so wall of the uterus has been repaired. Here the wall of the uterus has been repaired after menstruation and gradually get ready to accommodate a zygote. That means it's ready for new accommodation. So when it happens, if it is happen fertilization next, the growth is stimulated by the female sex hormone called estrogen. That means the first this uterus wall is going to build up after this menstruation. The growth of the lining of uterus is going to stimulate by the hormone called estrogen. That's why you can see this estrogen hormone increase during the growth of the lining of the uterus. Okay, so these are the things until 14. These are the things which happen until 14th day. Then if it is happen fertilization, surely this lining is going to accommodate it, but the egg which has been traveled from oviduct to uterus, that means this egg is already released. Now this released egg is going to travel from oviduct to uterus, and it is waiting for a fertilization with a sperm, while what left in the ovary from form a structure called corpus luteum. That means this part, the remain part, when this egg releases, there are remain part. Now this remain part we call it as a corpus luteum. This corpus luteum can form more and more progesterone hormone. That's why you can see the rising up of progesterone hormone while the development of this corpus luteum. Understand? This progesterone hormone can build up the lining of this uterus wall further, because this progesterone is going to ready for accommodate a new zygote. That's why it's build up this wall of the uterus. But just think, progesterone which complete the development of uterus further, and it get ready to sink fertilized egg and to develop into a embryo. That means this wall is going to accept the embryo and getting it developed. So this progesterone inhabit the productions of the FSH and LH hormones as well. That is another functions of the progesterone. That means while it develop in the wall of the uterus, it going to decrease the LH and FSH level. Okay, just imagine if egg is not fertilized, then what happen? If egg is not fertilizing, this corpus luteum is going to break down while stopping the productions of the progesterone. Then there are no productions of the progesterone. This lining of the wall is break down. Okay, that means lining of the uterus is break down and passes this broken part of lining through woman's vagina with the blood during the menstruation. So this is the menstruation cycle, and this is the process which happened in the menstrual cycle. So at the end of this 28th day, another menstruation happens, and the part which broken down from this lining are going to remove through the woman's vagina. Okay. Thank you for listening, my dear students. This video and lesson reproduction is further continuous with the part 2. So please go through that video in order to learn more about the details and topics in the reproduction.